What was like the biggest real estate deal that you've been a part of?
On the Cosmopolitan Resort and Casino. We sold 1,879 units, probably in a 12 to 14 month window, of $1.2 billion worth of real estate. For a 20-something-year-old kid that just got into real estate maybe 3 years before that, that changed the course of my career.
The pros and cons between taking a piece of land and building a building, let's just say condos, versus buying something that's kind of broken and managing it and turning it around.
In my market, which is like the ultra luxury high end, to get top dollar per foot, people won't buy a rehab at those numbers. They want to know that everything is brand spanking new.
What are the biggest lessons that you've learned?
I think a lot of the times it's not to really overthink. Like when you're looking at a deal, you're looking at an opportunity, you use your gut and you make that decision, you pick a horse and you go with it.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, a podcast about growth, mindset, and entrepreneurship. I'm Moshe Popack, and today we talk with Phil Gutman. Phil is a jack of all trades when it comes to real estate. He's worked with numerous developers on all aspects of the sales process. He's helped facilitate the acquisition of multiple properties worth several millions of dollars. He's an expert in real estate marketing, and he's even a licensed real estate broker in New York, Nevada, and Florida. Before we start the show, just a quick ask. If you enjoy Common Denominator, we'd be grateful if you'd subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps promote the show, and it helps us get great guests. Thanks so much, and here's my conversation with Phil. Hi, Phil, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Thank you for having me.
So we've had a lot of podcasts discussing about real estate, but I want to ask you, you've been in this space for over 20 years. What is it that excites you most right now in mid-2024 about real estate?
It's a great question. I think right now, one of the most exciting things for me is really seeing the Miami area. There's development that is going up that is really world-class development by world-class developers. The architecture is changing a lot as well. There are neighborhoods that have been overlooked for the last 30 years that have now gained some momentum and some steam.
I'll tell you, I've been here 17 years, and you've been here, since 1996, right?
I moved in 96.
96, right? So we've been here, we've seen, and I think about this a lot, we've seen South Florida boom and bust. And every time everybody says, when it's booming, this time it's here to stay. What corners of, stable economy? Because that's always, what I always think about. I don't want to have highs and lows. I always call myself like the turtle. Slow and steady.
Yeah, I get it.
So what are the fundamentals in South Florida real estate that you would say, you know what, this time really, we're not going to have this crazy bust, that we're here and we're stable and this is the way it's going to be?
So interesting. So like you said, I've been here for quite some time now, and I've probably seen 4 or 5 cycles, maybe 6 in my career in real estate. The most frightening part of my career was the 2007-2008 debacle, where there was no hiding. No matter what you were doing, you were getting hurt. But what I noticed in the Miami area especially is that we didn't really see people taking enormous haircuts. What we saw was the velocity of the transaction slow down. Some people, obviously needed to get out of some of their properties and did take some haircuts, but for the most part, what we saw was the velocity slow down. And that was a banking crisis more than, I think, a real estate crisis. Now, fast forward the movie to 2024, and what is really different about the Miami market is sometimes we're pulling our clients from the Northeast and the New York markets. Sometimes it's South America, but now it's pulling from the Northeast, South America. You have some states in the Midwest. You have California. You have Texas. You really have heavy-duty momentum, all laser-focused in the Miami area, the South Florida area.
Because I would think, how many, because when you have $1,500 to $3,000 a foot, not everybody, in my mind, who's going to be able to afford $5 million, $8 million, sometimes $20 million condos or homes or plus even?
Right.
Are there just this unlimited amount of people from, I guess, all over the world that just have that money and are actually willing to spend that money? Is that what you're actually seeing?
Every time that I get a little bit concerned about the $5 million plus market, Miami amazes me. Like, I've launched buildings, and the amount of interest that I get on $15 to $25 million apartments is completely insane. Look, at some point, you are all looking to grab this, from the same pool, right? So what I tend to encourage developers to do now at this point is really control the sizing of the units. Now, if you can control the sizing of the units, you can actually control somewhat the absolute pricing. I'm not a big fan of seeing all of the, monster size apartments, 10 million plus, but there is room for that still. I know it becomes a little bit of a dangerous territory when there's too many projects like that. But now I'm really pushing the $1,500 to $1,800, the $1,500 to $1,800 square foot apartments at the $1,400 mark. So it's not really.
Does that have to be on the water, or is it just Miami?
That's not. The only way to make sense now of a product on the beach is 3,000 plus. But the projects that I'm mentioning to you at the $1,400 mark, those are on the bay. So there is water access.
That was, I guess, before COVID. That was probably like $500 a foot, maybe less, right?
So, for example, the Bay Harbor areas.
Yeah.
We have a project over there, and you couldn't really break $750, $800 a foot when we actually acquired the land. Through COVID, we broke through the $1,000, $1,100 mark, and now we're sitting at the $1,400 to $1,600 mark in Bay Harbor. North Bay Village, same thing. It was a $600 a foot market. Now we're $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 market. A lot of it depends also on the location, how heavily you amenitize the buildings. You really got to deliver a nice product.
What excites you of all the things going on in real estate right now? Because again, you talked about banking crisis 2007, 2008. I actually see that. I work with maybe 12, 15 different banks, regional banks, national banks, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, but it's a lot of people and a lot of conversations where banks are basically shutting down either to sponsors or to certain types of products.
Yeah.
But where does the opportunity lie? Because that's always what I think about in the podcast. How do we give practical advice? Someone starting out, I get messaged all the time. Where's the opportunity for the next month, 6 months, year? What would you say?
Real estate
in South
wise?
Florida, real estate wise.
I think that I would be looking at undervalued, underdeveloped areas, because what's happened here now, and that could be either on the multifamily side, it could be on the condo side. I mean, what we don't have is a lot of waterfront. What's interesting about South Florida is that we're surrounded by water and there's really very little access to the water. So in my career, for the first time in I would say 20 plus years, you have real companies now that are relocating to South Florida. It was always a tourist destination spot, second home, third home spot. But now you have companies, major companies from Apple and Goldman Sachs, just to name a few, that are actually relocating here. Citadel was a big thing for South Florida.
Huge. There's 1,500, I guess, high net worth employees.
Yeah.
Right?
And this is something that Miami never had. Or, I would say from Palm Beach down. What we always had, again, was the vacation spots and the second and third homes. Now you have real people really relocating their families down here, and they're making it a permanent home.
What do you see, compare South Florida today versus, you read, I just bought an office product. I'm in contract another office product. It just seems like a different market, South Florida, compared to nationwide. I know I have friends, I came from New York, friends buying in New York. How do you compare the opportunities from a business perspective in South Florida compared for the next year compared to other states and other cities?
I think it's similar to what I was saying before. The amount of relocation here, and is South Florida an isolated market? I truly believe so, because the attention we're getting domestically, internationally. Look, I remember back in the day when we were launching Continuum, the banks thought we were absolutely insane, thinking we were going to get $400 a foot. Now that product is $4,000 to $5,000 a foot. I just feel that the South Florida market is absolutely isolated. It's resilient. It's shown it time and time again. It's battle tested. I personally feel safe with all of my real estate investments here in the South Florida area.
And I know people, I saw 20 cents on the dollar in San Francisco, people buying office buildings, and same thing in New York, trying to convert them to condos. Do you think New York, I know we talked before, originally from New York.
Yeah.
Do you think that New York will also just be resilient and come back because it's the finance capital of the world?
Yeah. I mean, look, New York, in my opinion, you can never really count it out. I know it's going through some rough times right now. But, back to the original question about some of like the offices converting to condos, if you look around the South Florida area, you can't find that. What I do see is major developers, from Related to Vlad from Oko, they're putting up enormous Class A office buildings. And I think that these aren't stupid guys. These guys have really done their research and their homework, and most of these guys are pre-leased already. And that's because the amount of office/demand for companies relocating, it's here. It's real. Otherwise, you wouldn't see people, building billion-dollar office buildings.
Do you think, and I always vacillate, even when I was starting myself in real estate, the pros and cons between taking a piece of land and building a building, let's just say condos, versus buying something that's kind of broken and managing it and turning it around. I know you work in the development space, but
I was going to say, that's the wrong question for a development guy.
No, for sure, because I'm sure I have a lot of friends that are developers, and there's plenty of sleepless nights before sales come in,
right? Or
the market turns.
Sometimes for me, it's easier to start from the ground up, because when you're buying some of these old product and then you completely redo it, you're still dealing with something that has outdated plumbing, outdated electric. I mean, sometimes it's more cost effective and more efficient to really just start from the ground up. Also, in my market, which is like the ultra luxury high end, to get top dollar per foot, people won't buy a rehab at those numbers. They want to know that everything is brand spanking new and high end and really gone over with a fine tooth comb.
Yeah.
But there is a market for that too, for the rehabs.
Yeah,
I'm not good at it.
I saw there were a few products, right? And if it's not launched correctly, if the sales are not done correctly, that also definitely affects. But I always think of, again, practical advice. Time value of money. It's probably nowadays, compared to pre-COVID, 60% up cost because of interest. I'm saying to build.
Yeah.
In insurance, taxes.
Oh, we felt it.
Right. So that means that, but you pass it on to the end buyer, eventually, hopefully.
So in the perfect world, the yin and the yangs align, but sometimes they don't. I could tell you some of the projects that we launched at a much higher number than we ever anticipated we would get. But still, those construction costs came screaming. And, we're big boys, so what we thought we were going to make on certain deals, we are not. And then we just know from the future, moving forward. I think the construction costs have pretty much leveled out. And sometimes you take some on the chin, and sometimes you hit a home run.
Right.
What's important is that you don't lose your shirt. That's the important part of it.
Right.
But,
you have to be, and I talk about that a lot. You have to, if you sit and you do nothing for 10 years, then you've done nothing.
Right.
So you have to do something, and it has to be and should hopefully be calculated.
Yeah.
And hopefully you have reserves.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely needed.
Right. So a lot of people, they're not adequate when they do the reserve calculation.
No.
As far as things that can come up, contingencies. Right?
There's always something that comes up.
Yeah.
No matter how skilled of a developer you are, once you start breaking ground and you start coming out of ground, there are things that you never saw coming a mile away, so you have to build in those contingencies.
What would you say right now, what type of product would you say is the best opportunity? If someone's looking to make money in the real estate space, what would you say over the next year? Where's the best? You were saying kind of like areas that are kind of, I guess, growing, gentrifying, underdeveloped. Mm-hmm. I saw one of the developers is building 1,200 units in Overtown, Terra, which was like unbelievable to see because that was maybe 10,000 a unit, the old apartments, and there was shootings and drugs.
Yep.
So,
I mean, I think that's one sector of the market. But when I say the underdeveloped areas, I tend to focus on 300 units or less. Otherwise, if you buy into a building that has 600, 700, 800 units, is way too much competition for you when it comes time for those resales and the rentals. I like the areas that I was mentioning that are underdeveloped because I see that that's where the most room is for growth. For example, if you're looking south of 5th, those prices have already ran. If you're looking at a North Bay Village or you're looking at a Bay Harbor at 1,200 to 1,400 a foot, I don't see why you shouldn't ever achieve an $1,800 to $2,000 a foot number, because there's a segment of the market, like we were discussing earlier, that people I think have forgotten, and that's middle of America, and just not everybody can afford $6, $7, $10, $20 million for an apartment. So when you're at that $1 to $3 million mark, I think that you have a wider audience that you can reach to. Sure. Even on the resale side, or even us as a development team, I really feel that a lot of developers forgot about that market, and that's something that we're trying to
fix. I mean, but it has to, it's just a sweet spot in the math, because again, like we talked about, the cost of construction has gone crazy. So you still gotta make it up on the final sale.
So under $1,000 a foot on new construction probably won't happen. I think you'll see the projects that have done that completely stall, cancel. It's a scary time for that sort of product. I think the new $1,000 a foot market is now the $1,400 a foot market. And when you want to go high end, for example, on the beach, on the sand, anything less than $3,000 a foot is going to be very hard to pencil on paper.
I get this question a lot for people starting out. If if they don't really have much money, and they wanna have a opportunity in real estate, what would you recommend people do?
If they don't have much money, you mean on
they have smarts, they went to school, and it takes money,
right?
Right. So where would people source capital? Like, how would they go about doing it? I mean, I have my ideas,
right.
but
my personal opinion is that it's very hard, but there's always a way. A determined person will get it done. If you go and you're working for a major developer and you have a ton of real estate experience under your belt, at some point somebody's going to give you a shot and trust you on your own. But you need to have that experience. You can't decide overnight that tomorrow I'm going to be a developer and expect people to throw money at you. What you can do is you can buy existing assets and you can raise money like that. People feel a little bit more safe. If you wanted to buy a multifamily building with 4 units that has existing tenants and existing income, that I think will be a much easier time to convince somebody to, give you money for something like that.
I know that if you're persistent, I always say that if you find the right opportunity and you have clarity, right, where it's clear that everybody makes money,
yeah,
there'll be money. Maybe these 3 people will say no, but someone will say yes.
Someone will say yeah.
As long as there's a money making opportunity,
Exactly.
right? So you got to create
it's proven and there's tenants in place, and you can really show how it cash flows. Much easier time than picking out a piece of dirt and saying, hey, 24 months from now we'll have 12 units on there, and it should be able to throw off X, Y, Z. A little bit more of a difficult time.
And I want to go back. I mean, so you've been doing this a while. What was the first catalyst? What was the reason why you went into real estate to begin with?
This is an interesting story. I moved here in my 20s, just a kid from Staten Island. Didn't know which way was up. Knew I wanted to be in South Florida, and moved down here. I wound up landing in the mortgage world. Plenty of people I knew were buying real estate, and I thought it would be a great opportunity for me. So I decided to jump into the mortgage space, and then shortly after, I realized that me sitting in front of a computer all day long, talking to the computer and somebody on my phone, wasn't my best use of time, nor did I enjoy it. And I wound up seeing a lot of people then on the real estate side, going out there, meeting clients, helping them find their homes, just really having a better angle at the whole real estate thing. So I got my real estate license in 2003. I started off by joining a firm. I was selling a lot of those 2-story walk-ups in the middle of South Beach. A lot of them were being converted at the time. And a developer came along and decided to launch the Continuum, which was probably the most luxurious project that Miami Beach has ever seen at the time. I took an interest there, got lucky. He took an interest in me, and that kind of sent my career on its path.
Was that, would you say, one of the biggest deals? Like, what was like the biggest real estate deal that you've been a part of?
So the developer of the Continuum, after he took the liking to me, they wound up offering me a position, little old 20-something-year-old Phil, and moved me to Las Vegas. And I took over, I started with them on the Cosmopolitan Resort and Casino. And we sold 1,879 units, probably in a 12 to 14-month window, $1.2 billion worth of real estate. For a 20-something-year-old kid that just got into real estate maybe 3 years before that, that changed the course of my career.
It must be, I mean, that's tremendous. I think that certain people just have a knack. When I think of, because that's like the sales side, going from, taking somebody all the way to the end and doing it in 14 months on that level. What would you say is your X factor as far as sales, and what people who want to be in the sales space, what do they, if they don't have it, what do they need to learn? What is it?
It's also a good question. You have a lot of good questions today.
No, I try to think of, thank you.
A lot of people, I've asked, I like to, every 4 or 5 years, really like look in the mirror and kind of assess myself. And I've done a lot of asking the developers that I've worked with, like, why me? Just something like I like to know for myself. What people like is the easygoing, the honesty, the transparency, my ability to deliver good news or bad news, but you have to really back that up with data. And, on the development side, any given mistake can cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So if something is going in the wrong direction, you need to change that immediately. I guess it's really also my ability and my understanding of the new development world and also new construction. There's, people that say that they know new development, and then there's people that really know new development. And what I've been told from my employers is
Right.
I'm pretty knowledgeable in the space, and really deliver accurate information and fully transparent.
I mean, that point, that's always what I look for. I can always, remember, we've been doing this a long time. So I think of like, you just want the truth. The good, the bad, the ugly, so you can deal with stuff.
Exactly.
Right? And no emotions. Be able to be calm.
Yeah.
right? And your personality seems that way. You remind me of my banker, actually. He's very, he's like, he just tells me what it is, he's just like calm and even keeled.
Even when a buyer comes in and they have a ton of questions and they're nervous, I'm able to walk somebody through exactly what's going on, and being able to place them in, just for example, a unit that I feel would be, good for them. If the building is not a good choice for them, I'll let them know that too. It's just the transparency and the honesty factor. It's something I feel every realtor/broker really needs to have. It's not about the money.
Yeah. I think that real people, and as a message also for the audience, I think real people just want that transparency. No games. They'll be able to filter through it. They've been through life. That's how they've gotten to that place. So it's just tell them the way it is. I want to ask you this. Through all your career, obviously, is anybody that says that they haven't experienced tough times or losses, wins and losses, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned?
I think a lot of the times it's not to really overthink. Like when you're looking at a deal, you're looking at an opportunity, you use your gut and you make that decision. You pick a horse and you go with it. That's what I've done. I've also been guilty quite often of overthinking things. And look, I've had my boss and family members and say, take a step back, go with your instincts. And I do. And
that's always, in the end, it has to, that's the greatest mind, the instinct, right?
Your instincts.
Right.
Things are never unfixable. Like you got to really worry about your health. Your health, sometimes you can't fix.
Yeah.
A real estate deal gone bad, you can. It's not the end of the world.
And I know recently you launched Gutman Development Marketing. Tell us about that.
So, for many years, I was working for the brokerages, working for the corporate world. But a lot of the developers here started pointing out to me that it's a very limited space in Miami with as far as talent is concerned. And they needed somebody like myself, whether we were going to build a sales team in-house and have them work specifically for the developer, or whether it's hiring the appropriate brokerage firm that would fit with that project. They needed somebody in the middle, somebody that's battle-tested, that experienced their bumps and bruises before, to really be the middleman between either them and the brokerage, or to actually build their own in-house team. And there's really nothing like that down here. And the ones that are here, I don't feel have my experience, and that's been pointed out to me. That's kind of why I launched it. And I've had a lot of phone calls already.
Yeah.
Now my biggest challenge is how to multiply myself times 3.
Right. Yeah, that's always a good thing.
No, but one thing I'll never do is overcommit myself to things, and I prefer quality over quantity. Oh. So if it's taking on 3, 4, 5 projects, I'm okay with that. If it's taking on 20 and not being able to service them, I want to.
I mean, this has really been super informative. I want to ask you, Bill, and I'm sure it'll be a great response. What's something that you're deeply grateful for?
There's a lot, but I am absolutely extremely grateful for my life, my career, my family, the opportunity that a kid from Staten Island got to come down here and to really leave my mark on the South Florida real estate market, and actually the real estate market in general. Like when I drive down the Las Vegas Boulevard, I get to look up and see that Cosmopolitan, and it'll be here longer than I ever will. Yeah. Same thing with a lot of the projects that I'm doing now. And I'm grateful and fortunate because many people try to get to where I am and fall short. And I always said that at some point in my career or anybody's career, hopefully you wind up getting lucky as long as you keep going at it. And met the right developer, got lucky, and
Yeah. It's and I hear he's doing a lot more, so good luck to him.
we have a lot more coming.
Yes, it's I share the belief about Florida in general, and South Florida. Still I always say this, and it's true. It's just a number: 1,000 people net migration a day to Florida. It's a real number, and business friendly. So, and Phil, what's something about you that people don't know?
Something about me people don't know. Most people don't know that I play a lot of polo.
Oh, wow. Really?
I bet you never thought you'd see a New Yorker,
No.
Staten Island here playing polo on a team.
Wow, I love that. I have some friends that play polo.
That's the latest and greatest.
Yeah. Super fun, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's fun. I haven't had that much of a rush since I used to ride my motorcycles when I was 16 years old.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm at the beginning stages. We have a farm, and I got a horse, and I'm starting my journey on the horse, and it's the most unbelievable. Just to ride
with me. I'll take you to Wellington.
Yeah, we have a place
safe.
It's out in Ocala, which is the second Wellington. People don't know. I believe Ocala is going to boom in the next 10 years. They're building like crazy.
Between Wellington and Ocala, I agree totally.
Yeah.
That's going to be an opportunity, and there's also major eyes looking at those parts of the state as well. For
sure. I definitely believe in that. I want to say thank you, Phil. Thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
I wish you health, happiness, and the best of luck. Much success, abundance.
Same to you.
How can people follow you on social, learn about your company?
Okay, so there are some clones on my Instagram, unfortunately. I've been told that I've been offering Bitcoin and stuff like that. But my real Instagram is phil.gutman. And same thing on Facebook, Phil Gutman.
Well, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Phil. Before we say goodbye, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we'd be grateful for a like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, feel free to leave a rating and review. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.